Well, Conservatives are descending on Calgary this weekend to decide the fate of their federal party leader, Pierre Poilievre. Delegates will vote tomorrow night on whether Poilievre should remain as leader after losing the election and his seat last spring. The CBC's JP Tasker is at the convention and he joins us now. So JP, Poilievre, he needs 50% plus one. It's going to need to be much higher than that for him to stay on as leader. All eyes are on the margin. So what are you hearing about what Poilievre and his team are expecting?
Yeah, just over 50% would be a disastrous result for Poilievre, and so too would the 67% that former Prime Minister Joe Clark got at his leadership review in 1983. Obviously, the bar is a lot higher for Mr. Poilievre, and the Conservatives I've been speaking to are reluctant to put a figure on it exactly in terms of the vote share of what Poilievre can fetch tomorrow, because they don't want to necessarily set the bar too high and then he's not able to meet it. But one number that keeps coming up in the conversations I'm having is 84%. David, you'll know that's exactly the figure that Stephen Harper got during his leadership review in 2005 after he lost his first election to a Liberal Prime Minister, Paul Martin. And so a lot of folks are saying that's probably the benchmark that Poilievre needs to meet if he wants to keep the naysayers at bay. And the people around Poilievre are quite confident that he will be able to get things to go his way, and that when people do go into that voting booth tomorrow to have their say, that they will overwhelmingly endorse Pierre Poilievre to continue to stay on as leader. We know there has not been a lot of public internal dissent within caucus in particular. And as you walk around the space here in Calgary, David, it's very evident that most people, again publicly, are supportive of Pierre Poilievre. They have badges on that say United Poilievre. They've got, his face emblazoned on their lanyards. There seems to be a lot of goodwill towards Poilievre, but we do know that there is other folks who are feeling a little uncomfortable with how Poilievre has performed up until this point. And so really, I think what is noteworthy is that Poilievre is not leaving anything to chance. He has been calling delegates for weeks. He has been going and dropping into ridings across the country to make the case for why he should stay on as leader. He knows that there is a lot on the line with this vote, and if the margin is not good enough, there will be rumblings about whether he's good enough to stay on.
Okay, it has been a year, let's face it, JP, right? From the election to the by-election to the defections, and here we are. And now he's giving this speech to make the argument for why he gets another chance. And Alberta separatism becomes an issue throughout the week and the revelations today. I mean, what are we expecting to hear from Mr. Poilievre in his big speech tomorrow night?
Well, we actually are expecting him to address Alberta separatism, David. I'm glad you mentioned that, because obviously Western alienation has been a major factor, and now that we have these revelations that Alberta separatists are liaising with some folks in the United States, we're told that Poilievre will address that issue when he takes the stage tomorrow night here in Calgary. But that will not be the sole focus of his speech, of course. He also has to pitch himself to these delegates that will vote right after he's wrapped up. And I think it's an opportunity for him to tout his bona fides. We're expecting him to mention that, he was the leader that drew in many more young people, that working class voters are now attracted to this party more than they ever have been. And he's going to make the point that he's the best messenger when it comes to affordability and the cost of living. So he's going to talk himself up a little bit just to, again, not leave anything to chance. And the reason why he has to do that is conventions can take on a life of their own, David, as you know. I mean, remember Tom Mulcair. He came to Alberta in 2016 not expecting to necessarily leave a loser, but that's what happened. And Bonnie Crombie, the Ontario Liberal leader, of course, had a similar fate to Poilievre. She lost the election, she lost her own seat, and then she got a poor result at her leadership review and had to step down. So they don't want to see a repeat of that situation here in Calgary. And while there is strong support in caucus among the base with the members that we've spoken to so far here in Calgary, we have to remember that he did blow a 20-25 point lead in the last federal election. He did lose his seat. They have had 3 defections or resignations from caucus over the last number of months. So it's not like it's all been super cheery and sunshine and rainbows. And I think that there's a recognition here that Poilievre will have to kind of speak to that. Speak to some of the weaknesses that we've seen from him over the last little while and still make the case that he is still the best person to give it another kick at the can and take on the Liberals for a second time round.
All right, the CBC's JP Tasker in Calgary. I'm flying up there tomorrow. We'll see you there.